welcome to the stage Jen DeGrossier. Really excited to talk about leadership development today, especially when we are surrounded by our industry transforming right before our eyes with AI. It seems especially appropriate to talk about the investment in people and leadership development. So with that being said, I think a lot of times when people think about leadership, they think about the score, the record, the outcome. But real leadership is about developing people. And when I think about one of my favorite leaders of all time, it's the legendary Pat Summitt. For those of you who know who Coach Summitt was, she was the head women's basketball coach at the University of Tennessee. Do we have any Lady Vol fans out there? There's usually a couple. All right, excellent. I knew there'd be a few. Coach Summitt coached for 4 decades. She won 8 championships, thousands of games. Her records speak for themselves. But I think even more important, the people that she developed speak for themselves. Every single one of her players graduated. They went on to be coaches in their own right, executives, and leaders. And I played Division I basketball at the University of Buffalo, and unfortunately, I did not have a coach who understood the connection between developing future leaders and winning games. I'm sure many of you have had people like that where you've worked, that have coached you that don't understand that connection. And it can be extremely frustrating from a developmental standpoint. But I was fortunate when I started working after graduating from law school. I had some really tremendous leaders and mentors that absolutely understood that connection. And what became obvious to me working with them that was the times where I developed myself as a leader the most were the times where there were 2 things that were present. And those are the things that I want to talk about today. One, my leader understood what was important to me from a value perspective and helped me align my work with my personal values. That was extremely important as a theme. The second thing that was extremely important when I look back is there was another piece that was present, and that was I had equity. And that equity was present either as a voice at the table and or actual equity in the business. So when I think about developing leaders, and I'm going to walk you through some of the things that we're doing at the Mather Group, those are the 2 foundations that I believe have to be present to develop people. One, an alignment with understanding what people's personal values are, and then number 2, making sure that they have equity. Equity can certainly be a voice at the table. I personally believe that when firms have a total equity ownership model, that's really where you begin to see the leadership development fuel. So I'm just going to pause for a minute. There's a QR code. Where is it? It should have been right up here. It's over here in this corner. I'd love for this to be a little bit more interactive. So if you have a question as we're going through the material, as we're going through today, feel free to put it up. And I believe I get it right here on this thing. So let's talk about the 5 levels of leadership. A lot of times at organizations, the organization invests in the top 5% of the organization from a leadership development standpoint. I actually think where you really start to have momentum is when you invest in the other 95% as well. So every single person in the organization is being brought through a leadership development curriculum. And part of that is having people understand what does it mean to be a leader and how do you define that. So many of you have probably seen this. There are 5 levels of leadership. I just want to zip through them quickly and then highlight a couple of pieces on each one. So in our organization, everybody knows exactly what level of leader they are, and everybody understands what it's going to take to move up the levels of leadership. So let's start with level 1 leaders. We all have these in our organization. Level 1 leaders are people who are incredibly, incredibly good at actually doing the individual task. So think about the people in your organization that you have that are good at that. And by the way, some people do not aspire to move up the leadership levels, and that's okay. But a level 1 leader is exceptionally good at doing the specific tasks that are assigned to their job. A level 2 leader is exceptionally good at doing the tasks, and in addition to that, they know how to identify problems. Level 2 leaders, and you can all think of this person, you've worked with them or you had them in your organization, can be a bit frustrating because they constantly bring you the problems that they've identified, but what don't they do? They don't come with a solution, right? Level 3 leaders can do the individual task, they can identify the problem, and we all love these people because then they go individually get it done. Love level 3 leaders. Most level 3 leaders aspire to be level 4 plus. They just need the development to get over into the next level. So let's talk about what a level 4 leader is. A level 4 leader is somebody who, individual performer, they can identify problems, they can solve the problems themselves. In addition to all of that, they can rally the people around them, they can mobilize people to help them solve the problem. These are the people that are really effective at leading teams. These are the people that have figured out how to work across the organization in multiple different layers, and they're very, very, very strong level 4 leaders. What's the difference between a level 4 and a level 5 leader? A level 5 leader does all of those things, and they've developed other level 4 leaders on their team, which is a fantastic achievement, and they have achieved level 5 leadership. In our firm, there is a real pride around what level of leadership you're currently at and what level you're aspiring to. True leadership shows up when no one is watching. I absolutely love this. You often wonder, how do you develop leaders where when you're not in the room anymore, they're leading themselves and they're leading others? And I truly believe this is where alignment with values comes into play. So when I talk about values, I don't just mean the organization's values or the team's values. I'm sure we've all worked at places where the firm or our team has the individual values on a little wooden plaque or a cube or something that we kind of have on our desk. I'm talking about people's personal values. So the people that you work with, that work for you, that you work for, do you know their personal values? Because that's when people transcend up the leadership levels and they lead when nobody is watching. When you walk into work every day and you know that the work that you're doing is aligned with your personal values. When you know that your person who leads you knows what's important to you and is actually checking in with you on the alignment of your work to those values. And so we use an exercise at the Mather Group called What Do You Want for Yourself? I love acronyms. It's called a Woody Woofie is what we call it. What do you want for yourself? And the idea behind a Woody Woofie is that everybody knows, every leader knows what the people on their team's personal values are, and the people know what their values are. And we develop personal plans and business plans that are aligned with those personal values. This has been a little bit of a tricky process. The Mather Group, we have about 15 billion under management, but I always like to think of us as we still very much feel like a small firm. And there were a lot of pieces when I became the CEO about 18 months ago that hadn't been put in place or hadn't been institutionalized. And mid-year performance was one of those. Business plans and accountability and check-in was another. And so we've put a system in place. We're on a semi-annual basis. We're checking in with people and we're documenting this. Are their personal goals in alignment with their values? Are their business goals in alignment with their values? And we're syncing that all up to what level of leadership are you at and what needs to happen to actually move up the levels of leadership. So that has helped tremendously in terms of driving productivity and getting people to feel really, really engaged in what they're working on. So as an example, and I get asked this question a lot of times, how do you even have a conversation with somebody about what their personal values are? What does that look like, and how do you do that? So we actually use, and by the way, I know we're all linked on the Future Proof app, so feel free to send me a message. I'm happy to share information with everybody. We use value-based cards. It's actually a deck of cards that you can use with members of your team to actually figure out what their top 5 values are. And you basically start with a deck of cards. You make two piles. One pile are the values that resonate with you, and the other pile is the ones that don't. You whittle it down to your top 15, your top 10, and then your top 5. So it's a values-based card exercise. It's really easy to use, and happy to share that with anybody. We also have then created an online version of that where you can actually play with the card deck online, and we actually use that with our clients to understand their values and to make sure that their financial plan is aligned with their values. And that seems to actually be working extremely well. So the other thing that I wanted to point out, and then I'd love to take some questions if people have them, because I'd like this to be a little bit more interactive. We take those values and we make sure that we incorporate them into one-on-ones. It's really hard to develop level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5 leaders when we're not consistently meeting with people and helping them guide them through their plans. And so we've incorporated the values into the one-on-ones that everybody does with the folks that they lead. And we're asking things like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how in align do you feel with your values on any given day in the last couple of weeks? How are you progressing towards your woody woofy? What do you want for yourself? So how are you progressing on a personal level towards some of your personal goals, in addition to asking the business questions? People that are better aligned with their values clearly perform more strongly than people that are not aligned with their values. So I just want to pause for a minute. I'm not seeing any questions pop up, but I see one in the front row and I would love to take it. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. Oh, we got a bunch of questions that are popping up. So here was the question. As a level 5 leader, how do I spend my day, and how does a level 5 leader spend their day? So yes, a level 5 leader should really be somebody that has developed other level 4 leaders within the organization and is leading through those level 4 leaders to mobilize and move the organization up. I will share this with everybody. I've been the CEO now for 18 months. It's been a lot of fun. I come from the broker-dealer world, so there's just enough newness in the RIA space to keep me very challenged and very engaged. And I will say this, though. I think any really good leader of an organization has to be prepared to roll up their sleeves and do what some of the level 1 or level 2 leaders are doing on any given day. I think it shows respect for the work that people are doing. I think it shows engagement, and I also think it helps me understand what's actually happening within the organization. All right, we've got a bunch of questions here, so let's see. What are some of the challenges you have found when helping people become level 4+ leaders? That is a great question. Anybody want to shout out what you think the biggest challenge is? People have a really hard time letting go and a really hard time trusting the people that work for them. And that is a really hard thing to do, especially when you're a strong level 1, level 2, and even a level 3 leader. So that's the biggest thing that I see is, can you learn to upskill the people on your team and then trust them? And maybe that's through very shortened checkpoints and check-ins, but trust them to be able to move forward. All right, we have a lot of questions. All right, this is a good one. What is the critical difference between a team that has accountability versus one that has true ownership? I love that. I would actually say that when I played basketball in college, I was extremely, extremely accountable to that team, showing up at practice, doing everything that I needed to do, but I didn't actually feel like I had true ownership in my role on that team. And therefore, here's what I can tell you. I did not perform as well as I could have if I had understood true ownership. And I see that in the business setting as well. When you have people that have ownership, when they walk in the door every day and they know that they own a piece of that firm, there's going to be a completely different level of performance and engagement. When I came on board about 18 months ago, we had about 65% of our folks that had equity in the firm. We ended last year at a little over 90%, and we're well on our journey to having a complete 100% of our people within the next 18 months have ownership. In my mind, if there's an ownership path and you don't have ownership after a period of time, that probably means that you shouldn't work for the firm anymore, right? So we want to get people into a total ownership model and really engage. So that's a great question. Another question, do you maintain those value conversations throughout the year? Absolutely. We have a cadence of one-on-ones that our leaders have with the people on their teams. Some of them are weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, but those conversations are happening. And we're also using an intranet based system inside the Mather Group to update people's performance goals and also update where they are on the levels of leadership. It's really, really exciting when you see somebody move up the leadership chain and the leader's able to document the things that actually were happening, to actually say, actually, there's really good examples here of this person not just being a level 2 leader anymore, but actually being a level 3 leader. I think that's a really cool thing to see. Let's see. All right, when a team, I think this is probably our last one. When a team is empowered, mistakes will happen. How should a leader respond to failure in a way that encourages future risk-taking instead of shutting it down? Love this. I don't know if anybody else is teaching their kids to drive right now, but I have twins that are 15 that just got their driver's permit. And this is basically what we're living through every single day, which is mistakes are made, coaching is given. I try to keep my emotional competency at a high level so I don't lose my temper, and we try again. And I think that's exactly what leaders do in organizations. This has been a lot of fun. This is my first year at Future Proof. Beautiful day. Enjoy the rest of the conference, and thanks so much for having me. Take care.